So I made a video on the Emissary 2.0. If you guys haven't seen the video, I'll link it in the description of this video so you guys can check that out. I'd appreciate it. And in that video, I got a comment from somebody. You'll see it come up on the screen in a second, but what it basically states is that every piece of gear that they hear reviewed, meaning gear and plugins or anything that puts out guitar tones, ends up sounding the same. There is an answer to whether if all that gear sounds the same or not, and it might be an annoying answer, but it's yes and no. See, most of the time when you're gonna dial in any type of a tone in anything, you're always gonna either already have some sort of a preconceived notion of what you think sounds good, and you already have a go-to EQ setting that you're gonna immediately start going to as soon as you get into any plugin or in front of any amplifier, or you're just gonna go and just start tweaking knobs until you think it sounds good. Either way, you're gonna end up in the same place unless you can somehow edit the videos that you've seen back to back and listen to every tone that they've gotten out of every amplifier and out of every plugin and compare them. It's going to be very difficult for you to decipher between one tone and another when you've watched a video one day and then you've watched a video the next day. Honestly, I think if you watch a video right now, close out of that video, open another video and hit play, by then I kind of feel like your ears have already forgotten the really small nuances of that tone that would separate it from the other tone. For all of you that know and watch my channel, you know that I use the same impulse response and I always end up dialing in the same style of tone. Now, once I'm done setting up my tone, once I've gone through and fine-tuned the EQ and dropped in my impulse response, and obviously I always use some sort of an overdrive and tube screamer. I don't think I'm alone in that department when it comes to setting up metal tone. It all ends up sounding kind of the same, but at its core it's going to sound the same because of the impulse response, because every tone is going to be overdriven. But at the end of the day, when it all boils down, it's going to be up to the gear that you're using or the plugin itself and how it was designed for it to separate itself from other tones. For instance, if I brought in an Angle amp head and dialed in the same tone I would dial in with, I don't know, any other head, you're gonna hear the difference, right? It's a very, very distinct signature sound, and Angle definitely has its own voice. But when you start getting into amplifiers that don't necessarily have their own voice, not to say that they're bad, because I think after a certain amount of time, how different can distortion really get? With that said, we still have classic amplifiers like Mesa Boogie triple rectifiers and JCM 800s, and you can usually tell the difference in those tones just upon hearing them. But obviously the sea of amplifiers that's out there and the sea of plugins have just grown and grown and grown, and now it's getting a lot harder to tell the difference between each and every single one. Now, not everybody has the advantage of being in front of every single piece of gear that they can dream of, or have tons of plugins stacked in their computer and check and see if they all sound the same. So what I'm gonna do today is, most of my videos before have mainly been plugins, and I've had this comment before, so I figured let's hop into the computer, start bringing up some plugins and see what's what. All right, so here we are in Cubase, and I wanna kind of show you guys what I'm working with so that you can see what I'm using on the plugins that don't have a built-in impulse response loader and that don't have a built-in overdrive or a noise gate. So what I'm using to supplement those things is going to be the Cubase silencer, which is going to be my noise gate, and then we're going to be using this Mercurial Greed Smasher, and then we're also going to be using the Ignite Amps impulse response loader with the impulse response loaded. Now I have the Beast impulse response loaded on both sides, and I have it panned center. So like I said, we're only going to be using this on the plugins that don't already have these features included. For the ones that do, I will be using my impulse response. I'll just be loading it into their plugin, and I'll be using their noise gate and their overdrive. So let's get started. All right, so this is the guitar line that we are going to use to compare all of these plugins. It's just something I took out of one of my recent little clips in the beginning of a YouTube video. And I'm going to show you guys what it sounds like right now, just DI with nothing on top of it. I lied. Let me turn all this shit off. All right, now, DI, nothing on top of it. I know, it's exciting. Sounds good. All right, so I feel that because the comment was made on the Emissary 2.0 video, let's start it off with the Emissary 2.0. All right, here we go. Here we go. Okay, hold that in mind. Let's move on to a different one. Let's use one that doesn't have anything built in so I can keep all these other plugins running. Let's do the prof.e.t, Prof.e.t, whatever, from Ignite Amps as well. prof.e.t. All right, let's do something from the lapel suite. Let's do the Legion. All right, here we go. Lapel Legion. All right, lapel Legion. All right, so let's move on to some of the bigger plugins so you get a feel for what I'm talking about here. Let me shut all this stuff off because I don't think I'm going to need it. Let's start off with the biggest of them all. Let's do the Fortin Nameless Suite. This tends to be a little bit noisy when it's just kind of singled out by itself. Just keep that in mind. All right, here we go. Fortin. All right, here we go. Reaxis. All right. Now let's do Tone Forge, Misha Mansour. Let's see if this one sounds the same. Okay, here we go. Misha Mansour, Tone Forged. All right, so now what I want to do is I want to jump into this Stl Tonality Plugin, because this plugin, I feel it's more of a studio overall plugin, right? I feel like this thing is made to have sparkly cleans, bluesy tones, country tones, classic rock tones, heavy metal tones. They really went for the whole thing with this plugin, and it's got one of the more simple EQ panels on it. So I want to jump into this plugin, and I want to take you from beginning to end in how it would look if I was to open up a plugin and start dialing in a tone that I like. So let's get started with this STL. We have everything here at, let's start it at noon. I'm not going to turn up the master, that's already set where it should be. And then let's listen to what this guitar line sounds like with everything looking like this. Okay, so not sounding the way I want it to sound. So let's start tweaking some knobs. The first thing I do is start seeing just how sensitive or not the bass is. I've already done that, so I'm not going to do it again so you guys don't have to listen to the same guitar line over and over again. But I like the bass to be somewhere around here with the STL tonality. The mid, I never really like it to be very high. I'll always go here towards the middle. And then my treble, I don't like the treble being up too high. I don't like to get those raspy, high tones out of it. So just a touch of treble. Presence, I don't really like. So we turn that down a little bit. Contour. Anytime you guys have an amplifier that has more than bass, mid and treble and maybe presence, and they kind of start adding things here and there, almost like gimmicky knobs and stuff like that, I recommend that you guys turn them all the way down, set your standard EQ first, and then see if those knobs either enhance your tone or make it worse. At least that's the way I like to do it. I don't really like to have that many things kind of clouding your judgment on what your tone sounds like. So let's turn the contour all the way off. The gain, let's just above noon. Let's put it at 6. And then now let's see what it sounds like. Okay, so now let's go into the cab section and let's load in our own impulse response. And I'm going to use the impulse response that's linked in more than a few of my videos that I give away for free. It's the Beast impulse response. Just so my comment section doesn't get blown up with people saying, oh, but you're achieving this tone with something that we don't have. You guys have it. I gave it to you guys a long time ago. All right. So now we loaded the impulse response. Now let's see what it sounds like. See, already that impulse response has changed, I want to say like 60% of the tone. I mean, it's really added a lot more of low-end response. It's really just added a lot more character to the tone and gotten a lot more towards that heavy metal saturated sound that I like. So let's come over here and let's turn on the Tube Screamer. Now, for those of you who haven't had any experience with the Stl Tonality, the Tube Screamer is a little bit weird on this one because normally your gain would say volume and the drive would say gain, right? And tone always kind of stays the same. But I have no idea why I'm pointing at the screen when you guys can see the screen up here. But in this one, it's kind of backwards. The gain is the volume and the drive is the gain. So we're going to turn the volume, the gain, all the way up. And then at least this is the way I set it up. I'm going to put the tone over here to the right. And we want the drive all the way down. We don't want any added distortion on top of it. We just want a clean boost. And that's what we would typically use an overdrive for. So let's come back here. Now let's see what it sounds like. One more time. All right, so that's it for me, guys. I hope that I shed some light on this whole situation, and by saying that, yes, it all sounds the same, and no, it all doesn't sound the same. It just really depends on how you're shaping your tone, and if you're using the same things over and over again to try and get your tone out of something, then yeah, it's all gonna end up sounding similar. But yeah, so thank you guys for watching this video. I hope it helped you guys out. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed it, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.